Welcome to the Quiet Warrior Show, where we help top leaders find their pathway to incredible success and a lifetime of happiness. Here is your host, Tom Dutta, the Quiet Warrior.
All right, everybody. Welcome to the Quiet Warrior Show. My name's Tom Dutta. I'm your host. Pretty excited today. I've got an amazing guest in the green room, Dave Scatchard, or many knew him as Scatch, incredible NHL entrepreneur. And we had a big story to tell. But first of all, we're live streaming today across Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Twitter. Give a subscription to the show so that we can honor Dave's episode. You'll be able to chat in the comments section of the feed you're on, and we'll be able to feature any of that in the production of the show. The show will be made into a podcast that'll be international and also a YouTube premiere video in the near future. Well, hey, let's put the spotlight on our guest. So welcome to the show, Dave Scatchard.
What's happening, Tom? You ready to rock this thing or what?
Ready to rock, man. Good to have you in here from Phoenix. I'm in Vancouver, and just as the intro was playing, I ran and got a hat because you showed up with your hat. It's better than my COVID haircut, that's for sure. I wanted to say to the audience, because people have been following my story, that we have one thing in common. And after reading Dave's book, everybody, I feel like I know him, and I know he's heard that before from others who read his new book. We'll talk about that. But I'm 3 years into a brain injury, and man, your whole life was shifted through a story related to your career in that. So want to tell everybody a little bit about you, Dave. I think at age 21, you found your way into the NHL, married the love of your life. You have a beautiful family, 5 concussions, dude. And I just want to read this. It says, the 5th concussion gave him a taste of death and changed the way he looked at life forever. It took losing it all, his career, his abilities, and very nearly his life to finally find it all. This book, The Comeback, by the way, everybody, we're going to talk a lot about that. It's about far more than hockey. And that actually, Dave, I did a review for your book, and that's the very first thing I realized. It's far more than hockey. So welcome. And let's get into the backstory, Dave. I went in the part of the book. Hold the book up there. Do you have that? Do you have the book with you?
Here, we got about 400 of them right over here. So,
all right, fantastic. That's fantastic. I'm gonna full screen you, Dave, so we can show that. So everybody, the comeback, pretty amazing. I want to just say that Dave's an author, and authors need to get their books read and reviewed. So I recommend you get a copy of it. You do a review, post it on Amazon. That gets his story out there even broader. But Dave, I enjoyed the book because a lot of it is about storytelling. So take us back. I like the part at the beginning about how you grew up as a kid. You started as a kid. Tell us a bit about that chapter and the story and how you got into this dream about hockey, man.
Yeah, and thank you for the review on Amazon. And like, who would have thought that this little kid from this small town in Canada would go on to have this cool career in the NHL and, have this wild ride and then have it all taken away, live through hell, fight my way back out, learn to kind of step up and serve others with my coaching business. And then who would have thought that I'd write a book about it and it become a bestseller on Amazon? So I'm extremely grateful for the life that I've been given and the second chance that I've gotten here at life. And how it all started really for me, there wasn't really a lot to do in Hinton, Alberta, which is where I was born. And my dad worked in the coal mines. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. I had a brother and 2 sisters, a brother and a sister. And everything was just frozen like all the time. So, if it was the weekend and, we were little, the parents would literally drive the pickup trucks out over to these ponds. And sometimes they're so thick that they could drive the truck right out onto the pond and have like a tailgating party out on there. And sometimes they'd even light like a campfire on top of the ice because the ice was 5 feet thick. And, I don't know how many other people grew up in place that cold, but we didn't care. They just threw these little skates on us and just dropped, like they just set us on the ice and we just kind of stumbled around and fell and got up. And like, that's kind of how you learn how to skate. And my dad did have a physical education teaching degree. So he started off as a teacher and wasn't making much money. And he had 3 kids to support and he ended up going into the coal mining business. but he was an excellent teacher. And as we wove through the whole book, there's a lot that my dad had influence in my life. And he was a really good guy. Unfortunately, he passed a couple of years ago and I miss him every day, but I was really lucky to have him for 72 years of his life and, 40 of mine, or 43 of mine, I guess. And that's kind of where it all started we just started just playing. We weren't trying to be pro or anything, but since I was like 3 or 4 years old, preschool and kindergarten, like I draw pictures of these little hockey guys when they'd ask you what you want to be when you grow up. And normal kids would do a fireman or like a policeman or something. Like I never did that. I just did a hockey guy. So I'm glad it worked out.
Yeah, you were driven. Everybody, the book again is called The Comeback, and it's a real honor, Dave. I grew up in Vancouver. I've been here since the age of 3, and Canucks, all the big time fans, season tickets. I've watched you play, man, and in reading the book, some of the things that really stole my heart were some of the storytelling about the early days, in particular your mentorship of your dad. And so I have a question I want to ask you around that. Mm-hmm. That a hockey player, in the book, you talk about some of the fame and fortune that comes with it. There's some funky stories about you going to Japan and playing, and some of the lifestyle stuff that came from around just being around famous people. I even read somewhere you got to go and do a sound check for Nickelback, the band, and hang out with some pretty cool people. They say sometimes that children define themselves by what their parents want them to be, and then later in life they experience a disappointment. They're always searching to satisfy their parents or to be who somebody else wants them to be. It seemed to me like in your DNA that, from reading the book, you really knew that you wanted to be a professional hockey player. It wasn't like your dad or somebody says, "Son, you got to be a doctor, you got to be a hockey player. I think you should be a hockey player." So where did that come from? I mean, what came of that?
There was a part of me that wanted to earn my dad's love. Like I looked up to him so much, and it seemed like I got a lot of good pats on the back when I got straight A's. And it seemed like I got a lot of good pats on the back when I was the hardest working player. And it seemed like we had a very high standard in my home. Yeah. It wasn't like, sorry about that. It wasn't like we were, military family, but the kind of discipline and standards my dad had for like how to be, it was pretty high, and I never wanted to let him down. And I think some of it, because I know what your question means, I see it all the time in my coaching business, where people almost create a perception about who they have to be to get love. Like it's not unconditional love. Like we feel like there's conditions attached to the love, you know what I mean? For their spouse or for their mom or for their dad. Like it's kind of like human nature to want to please, I guess. Yeah. And oftentimes, like, I don't even think it was a thing that my dad would be disappointed with me if I didn't be the best at everything. But in my mind, that's kind of how I felt. And so I always was like, that was my standard. I just had to win at everything. And I was super competitive. I remember I got an A+ in physical education in grade 4. And my teacher, Mr. Hutchinson, I remember it was yesterday, he moved that down to like an A- because he said I was too competitive and I had to win at everything. And my dad's like, that's BS. Like you got an A+ in my mind. You know what I mean? And you want to hear the sad thing. This is how people project what's going on inside of them. I heard recently Mr. Hutchinson died of a heart attack, and he was a stressed out person all the time. Yeah. But he was projecting that onto this little kid with these dreams that I just love to win. And I don't ever turn that off in anybody. I think sometimes those like OCD things are actually good. Yeah. Like a normal human wouldn't shoot like thousands and thousands of pucks, or like wouldn't like do these things that I did. Like I told my wife the other day, I said, like, I had like OCD as a kid. And she goes, "What do you mean? You never told me that. We've been married 16 years. And I go, honestly, like I had to do things in multiple numbers, like hundreds of times. Like something felt like if I didn't master it, I wasn't going to be good at it. So I would overdo it. And all the guys I played with around the league seemed to have a little bit of that in them, where they would just stick around a little bit longer, work a little bit harder, do more than the average bear, you know, the average person. They would invest themselves more, whether there's a screw loose or not, it doesn't matter. That's kind of what it takes. In a little bit of a way, if I did have a little OCD and I did have to shoot 45 pucks off the goalpost before I could go in for like dinner, or like, you know, these are things I do. And it's like weird because nobody told me I had to do that. Like my dad would make suggestions and say like, well, if you want to make it, like, what are some things you think would give you a better chance? But it's just a great question. Like even in my coaching business today, I'll say to people like, because I don't want to tell them what to do because it's not received. But if it's their idea and they own it, then magic can happen. Exactly. So, you know, I got to hang with Tony Robbins quite a bit through my platinum partnership. And I would just watch Tony work. And I remember one time he was working with somebody and I wrote down every question that he asked him during the interaction. And he never told him one thing what to do. This is an hour-long intervention. But he asked 30 something questions in a row. He never once told him to do something. He said, so what do you think? Or why do you think that's happening? Or what do you think is something that needs to shift? Or and just ask better questions. Yeah.
Well, first of all, thanks, Dave, for sharing that part of your story. Everybody, it's a teaching moment on the show. Go back and listen to this part, what you just heard Dave say, because Dave, you know, I asked you that deep question for a reason, because, you know, our stories are connected by a thread. And, you know, my father was a commanding officer in the military. Actually, I was born on a military base in the UK. And then Dad came to Canada and stayed in that position here. But he became a pretty bad drunk, and I had a pretty tough childhood dealing with him. But I always like to say that his demons became my gift because, dude, my dad used to say, like, all my friends were playing street hockey and having fun. I was, like, cleaning the garage and doing the lawns. And if my dad had us in the garage cleaning the garage, for the average kid, it would be half an hour, sweep the floor. We was like 8 hours. And, you know, I had to have straight A's in school. So the definition of love I had growing up was, that's the only way my dad showed it, was either buying me something after, you know, he did something not nice to me, or whatever I did, excelling and overachieving. So I went into life and I overachieved. I say that I was a self-worth chaser, and quite frankly, I unraveled that too. So I love the fact that you're doing some coaching and helping guys see that. I'll just finish with this. My dad, I say now that the demons of my dad gave me became my gifts. So that little thing you said, that little work just that much harder. Everybody, we're going to go back to the book a little bit here. So in your book, The Comeback, I remember reading that, how you used to practice just to get into the NHL, to get to that level. I don't think too many people really understand what it takes. I want to read something here out of the book, Dave, and then we'll give it back to you. I took a photograph of this so I can read it. It says, I've played with broken bones in my feet, a broken nose, broken cheekbones. I played with a cast on my arm when I broke a thumb in the middle of the tryouts for Team Canada. I've had well over 100 stitches in my face, multiple concussions, 12 broken noses. I've broken an orbital bone in my face, knocked out 4 teeth, dislocated my jaw, broke my collarbone. My biceps tendon is torn and reattached, multiple torn labrums and broken ribs, surgery in my blah, 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 bone graft. For the biggest part of my career, any one of those injuries would happen, and I just keep playing. So, I mean, you got to have a burning desire in your gut, man, to want it that bad. But then things changed. And so you had, I believe, 5 concussions. Take us through that part of the journey, because it's something that a lot of people don't really know about.
Well, there's so many different ways I can go here, but what is going on the ice in the NHL is this beautiful finished product. And you see these guys flying around there, and people say the athletes are overpaid and whatever. Yeah. But they don't know that I would say 90% of those the guys on the team were icing down a bruise or nursing and pulled groin muscle or doing something before the game, prepping for that game for 3 hours, warming up their bodies, taping themselves up. like putting on the frickin' whatever that, icy hot or whatever Tiger Bomb or whatever you put on your body. You'd smell guys on the bench, you just know guys are just holding it together, and they would show up and be pros, and they would just not complain. And listen, in one way, it's incredible, and that's why I love hockey players. Like, I was on a lot of rebuilding teams. Out of the hundreds of NHL guys I played with, there were only a couple, less than a handful of guys that weren't awesome guys. Like most of the guys are really good humans. And but what it takes to be a pro, like it's different. It's different than what a normal human does. There's another level that people don't get, and they have no clue that it's going on, because the guys just show up and show up and show up. They have no idea this person's going through a divorce, or this person's like, life's on the rocks, or their bones are broken, or they're just injured, or they're like mentally going nuts. Like people don't know, and the guys just show up and work. So in one way, that's really admirable and really cool. And I think that to be a pro, you have to have some of that.
Yeah.
The problem is that when like you stop playing and you just keep pretending that everything's good, and that there isn't any issues. And it's almost like I was talking to a coaching client the other day, and I said, that thing that you shoved down and that you don't want to address, or that you don't want to talk about, like that it's your big dirty secret that you don't want the world to know, or that you don't want your family to know, or you don't want to burden anybody with it, and you're trying to go it alone and like keep this secret. How much energy over the course of your lifetime do you think you use to hold that down and keep that thing in the box and don't deal with it and pretend, just hope it's just going to like go away?
Yeah.
It's crazy. So what happens is when you do liberate that, and that does come out, and it's finally not this big, what do we call it? Like big, scary entity or secret. When that does go, then all of a sudden that energy that you used to use to hold that secret down actually becomes this other thing, where it's like energy you can use for good, or creation, or productivity, or helping others, or serving others. And it's almost like you were driving your car around with like 4 gears your whole life, and you unleash all this stuff, and then you get like a 5th gear or a 6th gear in your car, and all of a sudden things start to click. And it's not like you're swimming upstream anymore. You start swimming downstream, and you're in the flow. Like it's like life-changing stuff. And, thank God that the Mayo doctors didn't fix me and told me I'd be permanently disabled my whole life, because I wouldn't have gone down this crazy journey that I ended up taking. And I shared all in the book, where I traveled around the world. I was adding it up the other day. I'm somewhere around like 800 grand that I've spent in my education, in my healing, in alternative medicine, just learning from these people. They're doing things that normal, quote unquote, doctors or people can't even explain or show. Like a lot of people don't believe it if they can't see it.
Yeah.
That's kind of sad, because then like, what about like faith and God and the universe and like all the things that are trying to help you that you can't really see, but you kind of know that they're there, but you don't really want to go there because it doesn't make rational sense.
Absolutely.
But nothing good happens in rationality.
Yeah.
Rationality is a killer for creativity.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Hey, Dave, let's hold up the book again. I'm just going to full screen it so we can just bring back everybody. We're talking to Dave Scatchard. He has a book called The Comeback. It's his story, and we're having a great conversation about it. We'll talk more about the book. I've done a review for it, Dave, so we're going to surprise you with that in just a bit. But, dude, you sent me on a journey in my head with the last little bit you said, and it's funny you mentioned some of your mentors. Those who are in my tribe and know me, I just recently did a talk about this, a TED talk, and I said I fell from the penthouse to the ground floor. But I came out of a home that was full of violence and alcoholic father, and I went out and I started overachieving and climbed up to the top of my career in business. I'm the CEO at the age of 31. And I guess I was fast tracking, but I didn't really see the normalcy of life. And to be at that level, or to be at the level of what you've told us, the professional league of hockey, man, you guys are on an unthinking treadmill. You don't have time, I would assume, to go out and learn about all these things you talk about in the book. I mean, it's about practice and playing and winning the championship. And then when you finally calm your brainwaves down, this whole world opens up. So after I had my brain injury, I went on what I call the hero's journey. I know Joseph Campbell. You're probably familiar with his work. It's a big part of my show. But I did Tony Robbins' Date with Destiny and some of his programs. I was actually broken, man. I mean, I was a broken kid who went into my adulthood as a broken adult. And on the outside, people thought, wow, this guy is very successful. So I was quietly seeking by taking courses. I mean, I didn't have the paycheck you had, so I didn't spend that much money. But, and then every time I found something, I did it. And then I found the hole in my soul was still not fulfilled until I finally realized that, I was in the wrong place. Happiness was about something else. So I want to get back into the book of your story. You had a concussion, but you had 5 concussions, and I read that you wanted to keep playing. You actually were trying to cover the thing. You're literally almost dying. And
oh my God, it's hilarious. Like I had no business thinking I could possibly play again, but that's just how I was, like a robot.
Yeah,
like I was a freaking killer. Like I turned off every single thing in me that felt like fear or anxiety or worry or doubt or like pain.
Yeah.
I just turned it off. And I say this on every podcast, but like I could run through this wall right now in front of me and I wouldn't feel anything.
Yeah.
But then I couldn't feel anything, good or bad. And I want to circle back to you. What did you say? You were talking about your journey and then the Tony Robbins stuff. And then what did you say something right after that? Do you remember?
No, I was just saying that I was.
I got it.
I was seeking, and I kept doing stuff to find something, and when I found it, the hole in my soul never really closed.
So let me give you a little tidbit because this happened to me, and I went to one of my mentors, and Donnie Epstein. I love this guy. He's one of Tony's healers. I want to hook you up with him. I think he's going to help your head a little bit. Yeah. But Donnie, I went to Donnie. I said, Donnie, I go, what's wrong with me? I said, I got everything, man. I got everything. I got the dream wife. I got the perfect kids. I got the money. I got everything that I've ever wanted. I've got, and like, I'm starving. I feel like I'm not enough. I feel like I can't stop wanting more. And he goes, thank God. And I go, what do you mean? He goes, you're chosen, brother. You are chosen. God is going to keep you hungry until the day that you die because you're not meant to sit around on the couch and eat bonbons. You're not meant to go crawl into your cave and go into hiding. That's not it. And same thing for you, Tom. Not everybody feels starving all the time. Not everybody's a seeker. But those ones that really are, thank your lucky stars because God has big plans for you. There's something more in the works that you haven't quite discovered yet. And you're going to discover it. And then you're going to go after and be hungry again because you're going to have to go play bigger again. Yeah. There's part of you that hasn't even been discovered yet. There's a version of you in the future that's so much bigger than this version, which is great. But there's a bigger version that you are uncovering and you will, I call it like to be revealed. It will be revealed to you, but that's why you're hungry all the time and starving. And I stopped beating myself up after I realized, oh, that's why. Not everybody is like us. And we're programmed a little differently. Thank you, Jesus, for that, because I wouldn't be doing this work if I wasn't starving. I wouldn't be pushing myself. I wouldn't get up at 4 a.m. every morning. I wouldn't try to hold these challenges for hundreds of thousands of people. My goal this year is to reach 100,000 people, have them come through my coaching program. That's going to cost me running $1 million in ads. Like, it's fucking crazy. Ooh, pardon my language. It's crazy. It's crazy to think that somebody who never did this work is now looking at running $1 million in ads in a year. Like, that's crazy to me.
Yeah.
But I'm doing it.
Well, first of all, I want to honor that everybody, a teaching moment again. I mean, sometimes you're chosen and you're on a path. There's so many greats we know have fallen down, Dave. I put you in that category of great, and we have temporary setbacks. But I always used to say that there's heroes in society, and you're a hero, man. And there's a lot of people you're going to touch that you're going to help. But here's the thing, we look at a local boy we know, Dave, Rick Hansen. He lost the use of his legs. Why did he do the Man in Motion tour when all the other people lost use of their legs, maybe withered away, got depressed, took their life? It's because I believe that, God works in our lives. I want to share this with you, man, because I didn't want this show to be all about faith, but there's a faith thread in your book that I just totally connect to. When I fell and got injured, I remember I was a night stalker at Costco. So I went from being at the top of my game to losing everything. I slipped into depression. My first suicidal thoughts started coming, and I was stalking at Costco because my doc said, get out there, keep your body active, and then waiting a table at a restaurant. And man, I bought a cross, and I told my wife, she was watching a religious show in the morning, and I bought this cross. Yeah, I took it off, didn't want to do it on the show, but for the lighting. But I hated my faith when I was a kid because of what I was, a black and blue kid in my house because of what my dad was. And the devil was in my house, and we had this picture of Jesus on the wall, and I'm not kidding you, but I'd come up the landing and look at it, and I'd just be shaking my head because of everything that was going on in my life. I denied my faith. I was born and raised Catholic, baptized, but after climbing and climbing again in my game, and then God stripped me. He took my eyes and my head away from me. I went, what? So I literally said, Anna, buy me a cross. And I would be in the car driving to Costco. I'd say, God, this is really hard. I lost 40 pounds in the first 3 months just because of the physicalness. And I was hurting. And I said, just look, I'll stay here. I'll talk to you. So I would I just have these conversations. I didn't even know how to do it. I just said, God, this is going to be hard, but I'm not going anywhere. I'll stay here till you want me to leave. And man, it was that period. And even up till now, it was that part, that faith that got me through it. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for that extra piece, which was always there. I just never embraced it. So I want to go back to something, read this to you, and then give it back to you, Dave. This is about your fifth concussion. This is how the book, everybody, The Comeback, which you got to give it a review. It says, my fifth concussion, which knocked me unconscious, ended my career and ended my life as I knew it. I remember the puck dropping at center ice. I remember skating forward as fast as I could, stick handling the puck and moving it onto my backhand. But then that's it. The next thing I remember is being in a black void with the sensation of floating up, looking down on the crumpled body on the ice as the paramedics and my trainer worked on me. I watched him wheel me off. I hadn't seen the hit coming and didn't have time to process it. And then one more thing I want to add to that. This really stopped me in my tracks emotionally. Eventually I gave in and surrendered. I basked in the love and the light, but after a short time walking together towards something incredible that I could only just sense, for some reason I glanced down. It was the only time I looked down the entire time. Everything else had been so consuming and wonderful. That's when I saw my body again, but this time it wasn't on the ice, on a stretcher in an ambulance. I was in a casket. That was beginning to be lowered into the ground. And Brooke, which is your wife, and our kids were there, all wearing black. She was crying. The kids were crying. And she was rubbing their little backs to comfort them. As the undertaker began his work and my casket began to slowly lower him to the ground, I watched the kids throw themselves onto the top. I froze. I could still see myself walking with God. I could still feel his hand on mine, but I couldn't erase that vision or ignore the pain that I felt in my kid's heart. Before I even told God what I saw, he already knew. They will all be okay, I promise. You don't have to worry. Man, I know this is hard for you to hear, dude, and I love you and your story. That's the experience I had in my car with all the pain I was in, and that's what I really received was, Tom, don't worry, everything will be fine. Tell us about that moment and what that meant to you, Dave.
Wow, it got me emotional hearing somebody else read my words. I almost didn't ever write the book because I was afraid of what people might think or how they might judge me. When I was younger, I didn't have the consciousness or the maturity as a man to not allow anything, what other people thought, affect me. So I tried to write this book 10 years ago and I just stopped and I chickened out. And then 5 years ago, I started to write it again. And it wasn't until I'm at this place in my life right now that it was the right time to do it and to finish it off and to get it out the door. And it was the perfect time once again. And once again, don't worry, I'm going to take care of everything. It's going to be okay. I've heard that. It's faith and it's love, and it's like a father, it's like a parental love that is unconditional, that is weightless, that is never ending and expansive and goes forever and flows in you and out of you. And there is no separation. There isn't like a him and a me, or a him and God, or her and God. It's like they're one. there's like a oneness to it
Yeah.
that is what I felt. And I never felt alone, even when I thought I was going through hell.
Yeah.
Because when I came back, it wasn't pretty. It was a disaster, and it was terrifying. And it was like the most pain I've ever physically, emotionally, intellectually gone through, where my brain was just completely broken. And
Yeah.
I was a waste of skin as to how I felt to my family and my kids. And I couldn't take care of myself.
Yeah. There's a lot more detail in the book, Dave, on that. I've got to say this again about the book, Dave. The way it's written, it's a storytelling book, everyone, and we're wired for storytelling, not for facts and figures. And there's even some juicy stuff in there about your time playing with the crazy Mike Keenan era, the Islanders. Amazing stories that everybody, just to get into the hero's journey and be in Dave's shoes, man. I would never have had that experience having not read that. But I want to go back to something about the details. I mean, with the concussion, there was a one paragraph that just made me crazy. It said there's orange liquid coming out of your nose, and you know, the misalignment of your spine and your balance and all that. And having been through as many doctors and people you did. But I'm so blessed that you found the other side. So I want to now just get into something that's going to honor you, because we went into the dark side of the story. And I love you, Dave. You said what you said, but I got to tell you this, man, because it took me all my life of feeling like a failure before I could say this, that when you're in I was a chief exec of a company. When you're in that level, it's lonely. You have to be tough. You can't say there's something wrong or they think you're weak in your profession, dude. I get it. And then there was my dad, who was in the military. I was like, I'll kick your ass if you don't do this. And, you know, don't cry, Tommy, and all that. So we come out of our moms and we have empty neurons in our brains, and then all that crap's put in there. That's not who we are. And I'm so honored. I think the one thing you said in this show that's so heroic, Dave, is how you said it took me a while to write the book, but you were vulnerable and said you didn't want to show your weakness because you worried about what people think. I think the best thing you did was write what you did, because you're going to teach all those other guys in hockey who are trying to be tough guys who are dying inside. I'm an advocate for mental health too, and I look at what is going on in the NHL and some of the young players coming out. Let's have some fun here and put this on the screen. All right, everybody, there it is. I've done a 5-star review for your book, Dave, and so there it is. Everybody is called the book itself is called The Comeback: Common Threads of Heaven to Hell. I highly recommend you get it, do a review. And Dave, I actually want to show this so we can encourage the audience, because many people don't know what this does for an author. I'm a fellow author. If you get Dave's book, everybody read it, but go on Amazon and post a review. There's mine. And that basically gets the buzz out. So the bookstores say, hey, there's a cool book. So let's just give it a little list. There you are. You won the championship again, Dave. Bestseller. Your life's never going to be the same. Let's bring you back. All right.
You know what? Just the fact that you did that means a lot to me. And same thing with Tom's show. Like, reviews help keep you at the top, and make sure that you subscribe, make sure you review his show, and like all of those things. It takes 2 seconds to do, but when you're an artist and you're creating something from scratch, the more people that we can get involved with the process and supporting us, it makes the system bigger. It gets the story bigger. It makes the message bigger. And, you know, Tom's trying to do a lot of good things here. He's saying so many positive things. And it's like, you know, don't take that for granted. Like, get in there and give him reviews. And Tom, like, I'm truly grateful, because I didn't ask you to do that. And you did it on your own because you're a good person. But you also believed in what we were talking about. And,
totally. Yeah. There's a line in my review, everybody, that said that this book is for everyone, because there's a thread in it for everyone, that we've all been to hell and heaven and back. Dave, I want to go past the concussion. So there you are. Just tell us how you're doing now overall, because I think you're in better situation, but then you've started this whole other passion about you've got a business, 100,000 people you want to touch. You're going to do it. Just tell us about that. That's a complete pivot to something unknown.
What I wanted to do, so I'll go back a little bit. So I had my 5th concussion. I had no memory. I was really, really worried. I had 5 properties in 3 countries. I had a couple in Vancouver, because we got lots of Canadian listeners, right downtown, a penthouse and a townhouse, like multi-million-dollar homes. and my brain wasn't working. And I went from having a photographic memory when I was a kid to like no memory. And when I talk about no memory, like they were giving me Alzheimer's medicine because I would get lost and I would like not know where I am. And like, it was just nuts. And I was only 35 or 36 years old. So that's a scary place to be as a young man. I knew I needed some help. I hired a life coach, and just to make sure I didn't do anything stupid and like ruin everything that I just worked so hard to build my whole career. For example, I wrote an $80,000 check to the guy that was building this koi pond for me at this estate that I bought in Arizona. And then I brought it to him and he said, "Hey, Dave, you paid me yesterday, like $80,000.
Yeah.
I'm like, "Oh, well, thank you for being honest." That day I went home and I hired a life coach, and I never used a life coach. I didn't even know what a life coach did.
Yeah.
But he said, "What do you want to do? If we can get you better one day, what would you like to do?" And I said, "Well, I just want to help kids. I'd like to help kids make the NHL. I'd like to be a mentor." But I said, mostly I'd like to help people not be in suffering like I am right now. Like if I had a wish and I could make my wish come true, that would be my wish. So I ended up chasing Tony Robbins around the world for 2 years as a part of his platinum partnership. And back then the plats were like pretty small. There's like 100 of us, maybe a couple hundred. So like you had pretty good access. It wasn't like we're best buddies or anything, but like he kind of took a liking to me and he knew how big a trouble I was in. And he saw how I interacted with people. And he's like, "Hey, you have a gift. Like you should coach. Like stop screwing around. Like, don't worry about getting your certification." I did. "Don't worry about your logos or your trademarks or your da-da-da. Just like go start helping people." And at first I was helping pro athletes, NHLers actually. And then I helped a couple entrepreneurs, and I just love teaching entrepreneurs because they have so much to work with. Like some guys are out of shape. Some guys, it's relationship stuff. Some guys it's finances. And, you know, I could use all these tools from Tony that I learned, and all these other people, amazing grandmasters and shaman and like monks. Like I learned from some really energy people, some really brilliant genius wizard type of people. But I said, what if I could take all that back so people don't have to spend 800 grand? They can just work with me and I can just give them the best of the best of the best. And I can honestly say the work that we are doing is groundbreaking. I've never seen anybody do what we do. We ran a challenge last year for free. That was a God thing. God was telling me to run the challenge. We ended up running 17,000 people through that. We ran it 5 times throughout the year. I sponsored it. I put it on my own money, but it turned into a business. And then like all of a sudden now we got like all these people paying attention to what we're doing, and whether or not they buy my program or they just do the free challenge. We have one coming up in November. Actually, I'll send you a link for that. So all your listeners can get a free challenge. They don't have to pay anything. There's no strings attached. We used to do 7 days. We're going to bump it down to 5 because it's pretty exhausting for me. But imagine like whether they buy from me or they don't buy from me, the fact that I'm getting like hundreds of emails being like, "Dude, you saved my life. Like I was on the brink. I was going to end it. I was praying for a miracle." And then your Facebook ad pops up and I'm like, "Who's this guy? What's he doing? Or what's this hockey guy doing here?" Like, I can't believe how many people have told me like, "I just came for some like hockey story," and then all of a sudden it turns into this. "You changed my life," you know? So what's cool is I've been able to weave the lessons from hockey in with the life lessons and the learning and the journey. Plus, you know why God put me in hell and he put you in hell, Tom, is because it gave us a new perspective and a new compassion, a new empathy for other people that are going through hell because we lived it. And I got stuck there for 3 years and I know it intimately. And I was like cursing God. I'm like, "Why are you punishing me? Like, what are you doing this to me for?" And eventually when it was revealed and I had a couple of miracles after I removed some armor that I had around my heart and my soul, that, hey, you know, it was like a father, like sad, like, "Hey, I'm sorry I had to put you through that, but you wouldn't be able to help the people that you're going to go help right now if you didn't know what that was that they're coming to you with." And I was like, "Oh, wow. Makes all the sense in the world now." But I didn't when I was going through it. I'll tell you that. You know,
that's amazing. We will put in the show notes, and as we wrap up in a bit, we'll get you to say that again. But my brain goes on journeys because it just, as you say things, I learned, and I'm curious what you think about this. That I think based on brain science, this is true, Dave. That our brains are wired for survival, not for happiness, and most people spend their life looking for joy and happiness. And I got to be honest with you, if I ever said that in a circle of my executive buddies, they'd think I was a loser. But the truth is, that's true. And I don't know if you know this, man, but as a hockey player on the ice, that you've always been helping people and serving people, because I just started realizing, why did I go to all those hockey games? Well, sometimes I'd bring clients and get, he was part of the thing. But it was like I had these wolves in my mind eating away at my thoughts all the time, saying, "You're not good enough. You're not good enough. You should." And I was living vicariously through guys like you on the ice, thinking like, "Okay, then I can experience being something. I can be here." And then when I see your story come full circle, and you say to me things that make me think that's all great, but that's just a facade. The real you, the true you, is not the hockey player on the ice. It's the gift. It's the man who loves people, goes out to help people. Dude, that's why you got hundreds of thousands of people you're going to help. I think it's amazing what you're doing. Let's move to wrapping up with you telling us where to get a hold of the book, and then also there's a couple things you want to give away. We'll put it in the show notes, Dave.
Yeah, I'm just taking a little picture of you so we can give Tom a little love here on Instagram afterwards. The book's on for Canadians. It's just a little bit difficult for us to ship, like, personally up there. So the fastest way for you to get is Amazon, and we are delivering up there. I've had lots of Canadians buy it up there. I am going to put in the show notes this killer opportunity for you. If you want to come down and hang out in Arizona, get out of the cold in December.
Sounds like a good idea.
Yeah. December 3rd, 4th, and 5th. I want to give all of Tom's listeners, all the Quiet Warrior show listeners, an opportunity to come down for 70% off. You're going to save $700.
Awesome.
It's only $297. I got room blocks. We have a room for 1,000 people. So I obviously can't give it to everybody, but we're going to give 297 early bird discounts right now to your group. And that's it. And so we got to stop it at that. But I want to give that to you guys because I love you and I love what you're doing. I think it's important. We'll get you a free challenge so you can warm up before you come there and already have a little bit of energy before you come to the event. So that's virtual. You can watch that online. I'm going to send a link to Tom about that as well.
Perfect.
And Dave Scatchard Instagram. My Instagram handle is just Dave Scatchard. Twitter's Dave Scatchard. And we'll be updating what we're doing. I've got a supplement line coming out. I got like all kinds of stuff, but like the real work that we're doing with All-Star Coaching, you can go to allstarcoaching.com. And that's kind of like a catch-all. It's got a lot of the stuff we're doing. It's a brand new website. I know that there's a couple of bugs in it, so we're working through it. So if a button doesn't work, don't hate me. We're going to fix it. But yeah, man, we're flying we're going 1,000 miles an hour here. I literally am hiring 4 coaches right now to help me with the coaching underneath me, because it's like the numbers are just too big. Yeah. And for where we're going, we want to have a program for everybody, all different price points, everything. Yeah. So we can really help people.
Well, that's just amazing. Everybody, you heard that. So there's a stock ticker on the screen. allstarcoaching.com. That's Dave's site. Give it a click, check everything out. We'll get those free offers out into the show notes. And David, it's God's work in your life, man. And there's no surprise that you're having to hire more people. Hey, I had a funny thought. Wouldn't it be cool if you went back and coached Mike Keenan? Try to unravel those. What's wrong with that guy's brain? There's something in his childhood or somewhere along the way that.
Yeah, I love. Listen. In the book, I tell all the stories about Mike, or half the stories about Mike, but I really have to give him credit for jump starting my career. He did believe in me. He pushed me to my limits, trust me. But maybe that's what I needed. It was all perfect. It was all divine. God just lined it up. And it's like, hey, if you get this coach to start your career, no coach is ever going to bother you because he's one of the hardest. And, but I secretly love Mike Keenan, and he knows it. So Mike, if you're listening, give me a shout.
Yeah, we grew up watching him at work, and everybody loves the entertainment factor of it. And they say, again, back to my faith, they say that it's the broken ones, or it's the Mike Keenans that get into heaven first. It's not the perfect people or the rich people. There's definitely work that he's doing to help people. I want to just now honor you as we wrap up, Dave. I do this on all the shows. I'm probably going to surprise you. I didn't prepare you. I have 4 words. I don't script these. I write them as you're talking. These are leadership words. So I'm going to read those out to you to honor you. And then I have a word for you. So the first one is hero. You're a hero, dude. That's somebody goes into the unknown and seeks, comes back as a guide, a shaman, does great work. Inspiration. Reading it in the book but meeting you and just seeing how you talk. And Dave, I know from my own battle with the concussion that every day is a hard day for you, that you have to fight to stay on the positive side of the ledger. And so we just think you're so inspiring. The other word is love, comes out of you, man. And it's just because of the fact that you're helping people. And then there's a word called transformational leadership, which is when you can be a leader who can transform people by getting through their heart to see that what you're doing is something that can help them. That's a gift, man, and not everybody can do it. So now we're going to full screen me, and you're probably wondering why is he full screening himself? Just show you something here. All right, there's a coin, the image on the screen there, Dave. It's got a guy who looks a little bit like a guy I know. When I started the podcast, I actually just wanted to start it and bring people who had stories of impact, but stories of weakness that they overcame. And I remember saying, I want to have a tribe. So I had these hand painted, crafted, and minted in the US. They're called challenge coins. If you haven't heard of them before, challenge coins were created in World War II. Soldiers would carry them in their pockets to commit to each other in community. They're used around the world now. My dad was in Alcoholics Anonymous 22 years before he passed away recently, and they have their own. First responders have their own. So this is the Quiet Warrior Show coin. The back of it is a illustrated visual of the hero's journey narrative by Joe Campbell. And it'll come to you, and by receiving it, I just ask you, man, to keep living with the purpose you have, taking action, and live the life you deserve, serving others. And last thing I'll say is we have less than 50 a year of these that go out. So everybody carrying them in their pockets, we're all connected by a thread. So welcome to the tribe.
Yeah, brother. Wow. Well, that's really cool. And I love what it stands for, and I love what you stand for. And I feel you. You don't have to tell me. I know. And it's gonna get better, and it's gonna work itself out. And I'm living testament to like miracles can happen. And this injury that you got has realigned you into this purpose right now. You probably wouldn't be doing it if you didn't get it. So it's actually your greatest gift. Now you write the last couple of chapters of the book.
Yeah.
What's that going to look like? How many people are going to be subscribing? Right.
Totally.
Yeah. I love it because I think you have a great message, and I love what you stand for, and I can feel your heart from here. So,
all right. Well, thank you.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you, man. We're connected for life. I'll be autographing one of my books, send it to you, and help you in any way I can. Everybody find this show, give it a rating. It'll come out as a podcast and then a second YouTube premiere video with all this in it, including all the cool stuff. We'll get the links out there so you can get the book and get down to Phoenix to the live event coming up and lots more. So, Dave, thanks for being on the show, buddy. We'll stay in touch.
Thank you, brother. Great to meet you. I love what you're doing. Keep it going.
All right. Thank you, Dave.
Thank you for listening to The Quiet Warrior Show. Create is a motive-based leadership development firm. www.kreat.ca